You know, there was there of course was an abolitionist movement in the North that got, you know, a lot of attention back in the 1850s and leading up to the Civil War. But there was an abolitionist in the Northeast, I think it was from Vermont, that I have a lot of respect for, and you will probably recognize his name, Lysander Spooner. Now, Spooner was a definite abolitionist. He was a Northerner. He was a Yankee. But when it came down to the war, in spite of all those identifications, he identified with the South and said the South was on the right side of the issue. And yet, the war advanced regardless, and it was pursued, of course, with so much pain and suffering. And it was, and the country was led to believe, and every one of our public schools since then have preached and harped and pounded it into our kids that the only issue that was involved was slavery. And yet that was the excuse, and that was the rabble-rousing issue, and it was, you can't deny that it was an important issue. That really wasn't the issue of why the war was fought, in my estimation. You know, there were over 11 countries up until that time and shortly thereafter in this hemisphere, in North and South America. 11 different countries that had slavery. Every one of them got rid of slavery without war. There were different vehicles. There was legislation, and one of the techniques they used was literally buying slaves' freedom, which makes a lot of sense when you think of the cost of war. Not only the 600 to 700,000 American deaths, but the loss of liberty, the untold cost. So there must have been a tremendous motivation for that war to be fought. Of course, I see it in historic terms, because even at the very beginning of our country, there was a major debate. Those who were the Jeffersonians, and those other ones who were the Hamiltonians. Hamilton wanted a strong centralized government. Jefferson, of course, wanted a decentralized government. And in many ways, they sort of split. And that sort of set the stage for problems later on. But Hamilton really didn't have his way completely, because although they did have a central bank early on, Jefferson got rid of it one time and Jackson got rid of it another time. But the ideas that they pursued basically were protectionism, which helped northern manufacturers, and they also advocated a central banking system, and also support and subsidies to big business. And those were the three major points of what Hamilton believed in, but really and truly it was exactly what Lincoln's program was as well. So when they saw this opportunity, they used the issue of slavery to precipitate the war and literally cancel out the whole concept of individual choice. You know, I think one of the most important parts of the Declaration of Independence says that governments are instituted among men, and they're deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So if you have a true republic, the consent of the people is very important. And it was the consent of the states that allowed the United States to come together. So without the consent, it doesn't exist. So they really, through the Civil War, threw that out completely and rejected the notion that the consent came from the people and from the individual states, but rather it came from the monolithic, more powerful, centralized government. And unfortunately, that is what we have had to live with for these so many years, and has given us so many more problems.